And I'm about to take y'all down there. And I got to do my copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is the use permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing on profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Now, what you're about to see is something that is going to explain the gay boule or the Illuminati or whatever you want to call it, right? This is getting ready to explain a lot. The first person you're going to think of, I promise you, is probably going to be Will and Jada, right? But watch. Let's go.
Have you ever heard of a lavender marriage? It's a term coined for marriages during the golden age of Hollywood where one or both partners was secretly gay. While Hollywood is known these days as leading the charge for the rights of the LGBTQ community, it wasn't nearly as supportive back in the day. Actors and actresses were signed to studio contracts that included things like moral clauses that dictated their personal lives and behavior. And there was also the issue of the perception of the general public. The country was far less accepting of homosexuality at that point, so if any of these actors were found out, it could mean disappointment at the box office. Thus, the emergence of lavender marriages. Join Facts First as we look at old Hollywood stars who hid their sexuality with fake marriages. Rudolph Valentino and Natasha Rambova. Rudolph Valentino was a debonair and attractive leading man during the Roaring '20s, and one of the first marriages of the so-called lavender marriage era happened when he married actress Jean Acker. Though we should note that, like many of the marriages in this video and during that era, it involves a lot of speculation about the true sexual proclivities of the people involved. Because homosexuality during that era was shrouded in secrecy, many stars took their true sexual orientation with them to the grave. So many times the label of lavender marriage was applied to a marriage where it wasn't known for sure that one or both members were not straight. However, there were rumors going around Hollywood that Rudolph Valentino was bisexual. This posed a PR issue for him and his studio. At the same time, actor Jean Acker was enjoying relative success in town but was rumored to be a lesbian. So, studio execs took matters into their own hands and arranged for the two to be married in 1919. As the story goes, Acker was already disillusioned with the marriage before the ink on their marriage certificate was dry. She reportedly locked Valentino outside their shared hotel room on the night of their wedding. Not a great start, though the marriage did last slightly longer as the couple split 2 years later. Valentino's star rose even higher in the 1920s, and there was a lot of pressure from the studio to keep that path intact. They also became more concerned when Valentino began taking on roles that weren't as traditionally masculine as his previous ones had been. This included 1924's Monsieur Beaucaire. To counter this trend, the studio insisted he marry again. So he turned to his friend Natasha Rambova, who was a costume and set designer. Rambova was in a lesbian relationship with actress Alla Nazimova at the time. She was also facing the wrath of the studios. Valentino and Rambova wed in 1923 to attempt to put down rumors of their alleged homosexuality. Sadly, this ruse didn't last long either, and the two divorced in 1925. As a result of these failed marriages and the rumors of his sexuality, Valentino was referred to in certain circles as the Pink Powder Puff. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Danny Kaye and Sylvia Fine. Danny Kaye was a star performer in his day. He shined as a singer.
Your future starts now at WGU. For over 25 years, WGU has been helping people take their next step. Earn a respected degree from the nation's largest online accredited university. Start with a $2,500 New Year scholarship. Learn more at wgu.edu.
The only way to fight stigma and shame is to shine light on it.
Ask your healthcare provider if Biktarvy is right for you, and visit Biktarvy.com to view the important facts, including important warnings.
Dancer, comedian, actor, and more. Over the course of the 40s and 50s, he starred in 17 films such as The Kid from Brooklyn, The Spectre General, and The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. He was also a prominent and successful singer and dancer. In 1954, he became the ambassador at large of UNICEF and was the first person to hold this distinction. Later in life, he was awarded the French Legion of Honor for many decades of work with UNICEF. While Kaye was indeed a leading man in Hollywood, he also wasn't known for playing roles that typified the rugged, masculine aesthetic. He was famous for his skills at physical comedy as well as pantomime. He also performed novelty songs that gained him even more success. The roles Kaye often took were characters who were weak and cowardly. Sometimes they were outwardly effeminate. While this should have been seen primarily as evidence of his skill as an actor, they were also taken to mean he wasn't a man's man in the traditional sense. Although, to be fair, Kaye was also known to be romantically involved with other men, particularly in his early days when he performed as a vaudeville comic. His supposed Lavender marriage happened in 1940 when he married pianist Sylvia. But in contrast with some of the other marriages of the era that fell apart, Kaye and Fine's marriage lasted until his death in 1987. They had a daughter together named Dina. So it seems likely that if this marriage had been a full sham, it wouldn't have lasted through decades. So perhaps Kaye was bisexual and found his soulmate in Sylvia. Rock Hudson and Phyllis Gates. The marriage of Rock Hudson and Phyllis Gates is often considered one of the most famous of the Lavender marriages. This is perhaps because of the nature of Rock Hudson's Hollywood stardom. Rock was at the top of the A-list during his prime and was one of the most prominent leading men and heartthrobs in America. He was a sure thing at the box office, starring in movies like Magnificent Obsession, All That Heaven Allows, and Lover Come Back. He was also a critically acclaimed actor, receiving an Oscar nomination for his work in the movie Giant in 1956. Hudson was the epitome of a male movie star, and yet the fact that he was secretly gay was one of the worst-kept secrets in Hollywood. So while the public at large fully bought into the notion that he was straight as an arrow and a classic male lead, the town that employed him knew quite well he was gay. In the early to mid-50s, however, those rumors had started to gain traction, to the point where a tabloid threatened to publish a story outing Hudson. Hudson's agent attempted to keep things under wraps by quickly arranging a wedding. Rock married his secretary at the time, Phyllis Gates. The two were hitched in 1955, then divorced in 58. The divorce didn't help stop the rumors of Hudson's homosexuality. In fact, they became so widespread, they're credited with starting the era of invasive tabloid journalism. The gossip rag Confidential started outing Hollywood stars against their will. This, along with their stories of other Hollywood rumors, led the publication to achieve success in the 50s and paved the way for more tabloids going forward. To be fair, Hudson always insisted his marriage to Gates was legit. Then in 1984, Hudson was diagnosed with AIDS. This further fueled speculation that he was gay, as it was erroneously seen as a gay-centric disease at that time. Hudson was actually one of the first prominent celebrities to reveal an AIDS diagnosis, and he was one of the first famous celebs to die of AIDS-related illness as well. In coming forward with his illness, he was considered a highly influential figure in helping AIDS awareness grow and become mainstream. Judy Garland and Vincente Minnelli. Judy Garland was a Hollywood legend despite only living to 47. She's best known for playing Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz in 1939, though her career as an actress and recording artist grew from there. She appeared in films like Meet Me in St. Louis, Summer Stock, and The Harvey Girls. She also released albums as a talented singer and was actually the first female to win Album of the Year at the Grammys. Over the course of her life, she won a Golden Globe, a special Tony Award, as well as Oscar and Emmy nominations. The lady could do it all. However, as with many of the stars in this video, Judy's life was utterly controlled by the movie studios, perhaps more so than any other. Studio execs began criticizing her weight and figure when she was quite young, which led to psychological and emotional issues that plagued her for years. They also created untenable shooting schedules for the young star, who, to literally stay awake to film, turned to stimulant drugs. All of this made for a fragile person who was taken down by substance abuse issues. In the end, she died at age 47 from an accidental drug overdose in 1969. But before
You see how this goddamn entertainment industry will take you and make your ass crazy and get you hooked on drugs? Like, is it crazy that all the biggest fucking stars in the world was gay secretly? Like, why they just couldn't be themselves? Like, why is it a secret? This is why you can't go to the after party, because that's where all these people are. all the biggest stars, and they all live in a fucking lie. So it stops us from growing because we could be around but so much. And for you to elevate, you got to be a part of this shit.